If the Cincinnati Bengals can win out, their playoff chances go way, way up, but they have to beat Buffalo to win out. That's this week's challenge, a very tough game for Joe Burrow in his second game back from turf toe.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He's James Rapien, I'm Jake Liscow, and we've been Locked On Bengals here for you since 2016, part of the number one sports podcast network in the land, and we appreciate you if you're an everydayer out there. If you make Locked On Bengals your first listen, we started to see some of those Spotify wraps, some of those YouTube wrapped year-end summaries coming in, and if we're part of your daily routine, tag us, please. If you're sharing those on social media, tag at Locked On Bengals, tag myself and James Rapien on social media. We love to see those. It's one of my favorite parts of this time of year. Really fills me with gratitude for you, the listener out there, who makes us part of your daily routine. Today, James, we're going to dive into the Buffalo Bills hosting the Cincinnati Bengals this week in what on paper looks like their hardest remaining game on the schedule due to the state of the Baltimore Ravens. Even if you buy into the upstart Miami Dolphins, another AFC East opponent the Bengals have coming up, even if you're worried about Myles Garrett, Buffalo at 8-4, certainly one of the contenders in the AFC, and that is the task for the Bengals this week. That is a preview that we dive into in this episode, brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. And James, this is another opportunity for Joe Burrow to show the Buffalo Bills that the Bengals still have their number. That has been the history in the few contests these teams have played with Joe Burrow at quarterback for the Bengals, even including the game they didn't finish when Damar Hamlin went through his scary on-field incident that he thankfully recovered from. All three times these teams have played, only two of them counting, it looked like the Bengals had thoroughly the upper hand. And this year, I think the game feels a little bit different, but they have to win if they want to really think about the playoffs.
I asked Joe Burrow about this on Wednesday, and he was like, yeah, we've had some success, and that means nothing. That success does not carry over. It doesn't matter that it's the same head coach, and we have the same head coach, and you got McDermott on that side and a lot of the same defensive players. He's like, it doesn't matter. And I think that is the right approach. And the reason why the Bengals have been so good, one, against Buffalo, is because it's been in gotta have moments. Obviously, the playoff game in the snow in Buffalo, we remember that from a few years ago when they were literally streaking and they control that game from start to finish. But even a couple of years ago, they beat Buffalo, and it was part of their 4-game winning streak when they really bounced back and put themselves in playoff positioning before Joe Burrow suffered that wrist injury and things kind of derailed and went sideways and downhill from there. So the Bills have caught the Bengals in some tough spots. The Damar Hamlin game, same thing. Like, the Bengals really needed that one from a seeding standpoint, and they came out with their hair on fire and played well. And look, they're going to have to do that again. I think offensively, when I look at this game, offensively, they have to be really, really sharp. And all of the things that we've seen from this defense, that's great. And they need to do certain things if they're going to win in Buffalo regardless. But we got to be honest with it here. When it comes to this Bengals team, when they win games, when they usually at least win games, or if they're going to win games, what's the reason? The main reason is going to be because of this offense, because of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins and Chase Brown. And it certainly feels like Tee Higgins is trending in the right direction toward playing on Sunday, which is huge. It's huge in the red zone. It's huge in key moments. It's huge in got to have it moments to have another guy opposite Jamar Chase that's capable of making big plays. So I do think, as always, it starts with the star quarterback with any team. But when it comes to this team, their backs are against the wall. They went 1-0. Now they got to win the next 5 to probably, I would say probably put themselves in position to make the playoffs. Obviously, they need a little help, but I think they'll get that help. You got to bank on this offense. You got to bank on Joe Burrow, and that's what they're going to have to do on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's really hard to talk about winning 5 games in a row in the NFL against any team. And Buffalo, like I said, I think on paper, the hardest remaining matchup that they've got, which is why it kind of has to start this week. That's why we did the episode earlier this week, right? Where we talked about when do we take their playoff chances seriously? Because it's really easy to sit here and say, yeah, well, they just got to win out. Of course, go 5-0. That's easy, that's easy to do. They've done it before. They've finished hot before. You go back to 2022 when that DeMar Hamlin game occurred and the Bengals had to go to Buffalo in the playoffs and won that game there. They won a bunch of games down the stretch in that season and we're on track. We believe, many Bengals fans believe too, to beat Buffalo in that game. We didn't get very far into that game, but they were about to go up 2 touchdowns in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, and like Joe Burrow said, this is a different ballgame, different season, different team. And while Joe Burrow, Tee Higgins, Jamar Chase are still driving this thing, and you add in Chase Brown, like you mentioned, you add in the way the offensive line played last week. If they can reprise that performance this week, that's huge for this team. But if Joe Burrow's truly well and good, knock the rust off, James, why wouldn't the offense be able to do what the offense has done with Joe Burrow at quarterback, right? And he talked about that in his presser this week as well when he said, yeah, I felt like when you get that kind of protection, it's pretty easy to knock the rust off. Felt like he was dealing after really the first quarter when he felt like he missed some throws. He felt like he was really good after that. I think when you look at the film, it's mostly borne out on film. The processing was back to his standard. The accuracy returned pretty quickly for him. And those are the 2 pillars of his game, right? Creating out of structure, accuracy, processing ability. And all of those things appeared to be there, even with that carbon fiber plate in his shoe that's limiting his toe mobility so that it doesn't re-injure that toe. And not even on the injury report, which is crazy. And I tweeted about this too. Like, he's not getting treatment right now. That's what that means, that he's not on the injury report. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. But all these factors make you think, given his history against Buffalo, all these things should be pretty good. And they need him to be pretty good. They're going to need a big performance from this offense, I think, because on paper, this game screams shootout, right? These are 2 defenses that have struggled all year, which obviously means we're going to get a defensive struggle instead on Sunday. That's how these things seem to go. But on paper, it looks like a shootout, right?
It does. And they need Joe Burrow to be the best player on the field. That's it. Like that's what it comes down to. Like, these are the type of games. This is why you bring Joe back with a chance. You give him a chance to put themselves in position, because really you got to get the next 2. And then it feels like you're in position. And if you get the next 2, then we can have the real serious playoff talk. And who would you rather have than Joe Burrow in this situation? There aren't many players or athletes that thrive under the pressure. And Jamar is one of those guys too. And that's anytime this team during this era has been backs against the wall, the Joe Jamar era, so 2021 on, I'm like, doubt him all you want, but we'll see. And whether it's taking KC to the wire in the AFC Championship game down 3 offensive linemen, like, that was a feat in Arrowhead to do that. And they were rolling and it was shocking and all of those things. Like, there's just so many examples of that. Obviously, their success against Buffalo, but this is their time. Now they got to go out and do it again, because if you don't do it, then your season's probably over. I think the offensive line, it's a really good point, because this does feel like the first time, probably not ever. I think in 2022, during that 10-game winning streak, if you count the playoffs, there was a moment before Kappa got hurt, before they had multiple injuries and then had to go into KC limping offensive line wise, where the offensive line was playing pretty well. But this is like the first time in a while where it's like, I feel pretty good about the offensive line. I think they are going to open up running lanes for Chase Brown. I do think that they can hold up in pass protection for Joe Burrow and give him the ability to move up and slide and do all of the things that he does so well on the gotta have it downs and makes big plays by going off script. Like, I agree with you. I think that this offense should be able to deliver, which puts the pressure on them a little bit. And the good news is usually they've responded to that pressure in the right way.
Pressure on the defense too. That's the other side of this coin. Want to talk a little bit more about the offensive line here. There's a
Yeah.
bigger challenge this week that I think Buffalo poses just in terms of the talent that they have up front, some of the individual matchups. They're a little bit banged up there now, and we'll see who plays for Buffalo in the trenches. But that trench matchup when the Bengals are on offense, and honestly, on both sides of the ball, the trench matchup in this game, for all the talk we're going to have about the quarterbacks and all the talk you're going to hear about the quarterbacks leading into this game, I think the trench battle absolutely huge in this one too when you consider the impact, the potential impact of the run game for both teams. Both these teams running the ball well, both these teams serious question marks defending the run. Let's continue on the topic of the trenches here before we shift gears and talk defense coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and we know it, you know it. The NFL season's more than half over, and it's because NFL Sundays move fast. One big play can change everything. One Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase touchdown at the beginning of the game can suddenly dictate the rest of the game. Oh, wait, that's me reliving the snow game, the playoff game a few years ago where the Bengals led wire to wire and really dominated the Buffalo Bills. Well, live betting with FanDuel makes every Sunday exciting. Whether the Bengals are playing or not, you're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds every drive, momentum swing, and highlight moment, from player props to odds to futures. The Bengals right now plus 850 to win the AFC North. If you think they're going to win it, if you think they're going to go on a run, now's probably the time to get in on the action. All you have to do is go to FanDuel.com to sign up today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for player props, live spreads, parlays, so much more. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you at FanDuel.com.
Got a quick number for you from PFF here. Joe Goodberry brought my attention to this. The Cincinnati Bengals in week 13 against the Baltimore Ravens posted a team pass blocking grade of 91.1. When do you think the last time is that the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line posted a pass, not offensive line, sorry, offense posted a pass blocking grade as a team at that number or higher?
2015.
2016, really close. There was a 2016 game against the Miami Dolphins in week 4.
There you go.
Almost a decade.
Wow.
They've had some nice pass that you were.
Ooh.
They've had some nice pass blocking performances in the Joe Burrow era, don't get me wrong, but nothing quite to the level that we saw against the Baltimore Ravens. And when you combine that with the way this team has been running the ball since they kind of figured out their run game, Chase Brown over 5.5 yards per carry, I think it is, since week 8, or maybe it was a little bit before that. I went back and looked this week. Chase Brown really figuring some things out. Buffalo, a bit of a different challenge up front than the Baltimore Ravens, where Deion Walker is a havoc maker on the interior. And even if Joey Bosa doesn't play, he didn't practice on Wednesday. We'll see what's going on with his injury status as this week goes on. Greg Rousseau, in true pass set situations, according to PFF, is winning at a higher rate anyway. So there are individual guys on this Buffalo defensive line that will challenge you. And the trench battle to me, James, like I said, just top of mind on both sides of the ball here.
No doubt. No doubt about it. It's because on one hand, you keep Joe Burrow upright, you feel like you're always going to have a shot. You give him a running game and good luck. Like, it's really tough to stop Joe. And on the other hand, the Bills are saying the same thing. The Bills are saying the exact same thing. If we don't let the Bengals get pressure on Josh Allen and they can't stop our run game, well, then good luck against us. And that's where the shootout element comes from. And honestly, what a time. Who would have thought Dalton Reisner, with some reps under him, would actually be good at right guard, right? Who would have thought? That's right. Everyone. Dylan Fairchild continues to be impressive. I think Orlando Brown Jr., while he's had an inconsistent year, as for the most part been solid. And, you know, I had someone send me a clip of Nick Herbig beating him against the Steelers. And it's like, well, yeah, the Steelers got a lot of dudes, man. Like, there's one unit on the Steelers roster that worries me. Literally one. And it's that defensive front, because they have a lot of guys. And so Orlando has to continue to play at the level he's playing at and played at last week. And if you do that, you're going to have a shot against anyone. And that's the beauty of having Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins. If this offensive line does that, doesn't matter who they're playing, they will have a chance. And we'll see if they can do it on the road in a crazy environment. They're going to be people going through tables, right? You got to ignore the wood breaking and focus on the snap count. The good news is they did that last week, obviously, but this is going to be a crazy environment. And me and Joe yesterday, Joe Marino of Locked On Bills, make sure you check it out if you missed our crossover. Like the Bills are playing for a lot here. They have a lot on the line too. Like their backs, not entirely against the wall from a playoff seeding standpoint, but if they want to win the division for a 6th straight year in the AFC East, I think it's 6 straight, potentially, they have to win this week and next week against New England and start to make their run here. And so we'll see who gets the better of the other, but there's a lot on the line for both teams on Sunday.
Yeah, I imagine the Bills are talking about we have to win out if we're going to win the division. The way the Bengals are talking about we have to win out to make the playoffs. I imagine that there's some discourse somewhere in Buffalo, and they probably don't want to admit this, but this is the Cincinnati Bengals podcast here, that is like, hey, maybe we can knock Cincinnati out of the playoffs and not have to deal with them in January. I imagine there's some thought about that. I've heard that discussed on at least some national shows, I think, this week too. But I mean, we're talking about the 2nd straight year where if Joe Burrow is going to finish the season the way that we've seen him finish seasons, that once again, we're going to be talking about or hearing about Cincinnati Bengals, man. Nobody wants to play them in the AFC playoffs. The AFC is wide open. All these teams are flawed, man. I mean, in Buffalo sitting there probably thinking like, well, maybe we just won't have to deal with them if we can beat them this week. We have a chance against them at home this week. We can try to put ourselves into position to maybe steal our division if we can take one off of New England here. Then we finish with Cleveland, Philly, and the Jets. Feel real good about at least 2 of those games, right? So Buffalo is sitting there thinking the same thing the Bengals are thinking. Got to get through the next 2 weeks. And then after that, I mean, they got Philly. It's a little bit different for Buffalo. But after that, you just got to win a few more games and you can take care of this thing. And I imagine it's a very similar mentality for the Bills there as the Bengals have this week in a lot of ways, with the extra motivation of the Bills being like, man, can we just beat this team? Can we beat Joe Burrow? And how that actually manifests in terms of on-field results.
Do you think that's in their head? I don't. I don't think they've played enough. I think Bengals fans feel, and maybe I'm wrong.
I think a lot of Buffalo media talks about it that way.
Yeah, that's just weird. It's 2 games. But I guess those narratives get built fast. Yeah.
One of them, like they're thinking Super Bowl or bust, and the Bengals beat them in Buffalo in the playoffs. I think that game is probably
4 years ago
with them. Yeah.
Or 3 years ago. A little over 3 years ago. But still, I don't know. Like Josh Allen's better now than he was then. Right? I don't know. I guess I get it. Because there was that narrative, Burrow and Mahomes, and Burrow's still ahead in their all-time meetings, but like clearly the Chiefs got over the hump. Like I just think sometimes that happens. Like I don't think that, because the AFC North, like I never bought the Browns having Burrow's number. I just think that's a tough matchup. Like I don't think the Browns have some hold over Burrow mentally. I just think they know how to pressure and get after him and then also cover. Right. And so maybe that's it. Maybe Burrow just knows how to read, diagnose, and just he's the magical piece of this that can read this Buffalo defense, knows what they're doing and figures it out. Like who knows? But I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that there could be something to the specifically Joe Burrow versus Sean McDermott matchup. Like Sean McDermott hasn't been able to figure out yet the things that will slow down this Bengals offense, and maybe he just doesn't have the guys. Maybe Cole Bishop is the difference. Maybe Christian Benford, who has been playing better as of late, is a difference for them. We'll see. But there are other guys in this secondary that I think you can pick on a little bit. Trey White's playing a lot. They got Maxwell Harrison out there. They got Taron Johnston playing a lot. There are guys that they can go after, even if they avoid Christian Benford the whole game. And I don't think you avoid any corner. I mean, we just saw Joe Burrow throw a touchdown to Tanner Hudson with Kyle Hamilton draped all over him. And that's supposed to be a DPOY candidate, right? Like that's the Ravens guy. That's the engine that makes their defense go. Joe's not backing down from any of these corners, but even if he had to, there's still matchups that when you got Jamar and T, you're going to like for the Bengals, and you're going to make Buffalo pick their poison. If they're going to dedicate all these resources to the receivers, then the Bengals have been running the ball better. And the Buffalo Bills have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So there's all these reasons to think if Zach and Joe go out there with their problem-solving mentality and stick with the things that are working, they'll find ways to get the offense going. Then the question is really on the defensive side of the ball. Like, assuming the offense lives up to its side of the bargain, does its job. All those questions on the defensive side of the ball looming large. And, we're talking about shootouts and the Bengals defense has been better the last couple of weeks, but again, a big challenge with Josh Allen and that Bills running game in particular this week. Let's talk about what is ahead for the defense to finish the show next.
Jake, when it comes to this defense, it's been fun watching them. How much of it's sustainable, how much of it isn't. The thing that I think they just need to do over this stretch, I'm not expecting them to come out and just stop James Cook and that Bills rushing attack, stop Josh Allen, hold them to 10 points like they did in the playoff game. I just don't think that's realistic. Maybe it is. Maybe they do. They held the Ravens to 14 a week ago as we record this. But the splash plays, the big turnovers, tackles for loss, sacks, the disruptions, like those are the type of things, like if you can be disruptive, given what we expect from the Bengals offense, I take that all day long. Like, force 2 turnovers. Sign me up for that. Force a couple of punts. Get off the field where you force a couple of field goals on third and mid-range at the 25-yard line. And, like, that can be the difference instead of giving up touchdowns and not taking advantage of the splash play or two. Like, I'm not expecting this defense to hold the Bills under 20 necessarily. Assuming they get a couple of splash plays and turn a couple 7s into 3s, I think that's all you can really ask for in a matchup like this, where you're dealing with a really good Bills offense that can beat you in a bunch of ways.
I think the path for the Bengals on defense is probably some bend don't break stuff and probably looking at fumbles, right? The Bills put the ball on the ground. Ty Johnson puts the ball on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
James Cook puts the ball on the ground. Josh Allen puts the ball on the ground. Can they have another game where they create a few fumbles? Talking about turnovers again this week. Talking about timely blitzes that catch the Bills off guard. Really well-coached offensive line. Really well put together run game that they execute at a high level. But can they get the ball on the ground? Mm-hmm. Can they create a couple of those takeaways? Can they get a couple of field goal red zone stops? That's what I'm thinking about. Can the offense give them a lead to play with? That's another factor here, obviously. But they haven't faced a run game like this. Like I said, I think earlier this week, since they played the Bears. The Bears have really figured out their run game. And we just watched what this run game did without its 2 tackles, and Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown both limited as they're working their way back from injury. That they were limited on Wednesday. We'll see if both of those guys don't play, which of those guys play. I mean, those 2 guys were pretty good too, especially in the run game. So
sure,
that's certainly a matchup that I'm looking at. Like, can these linebackers figure out a little bit more consistency in the run game this week? Going to be a big run game support from the secondary kind of game. What version of Geno Stone do we get this week? Do we get the 2 weeks ago version against the New England Patriots who was hair on fire? Do we get the version last week that was kind of back to what we've come to expect from Geno Stone this year?
Yeah, I need hair on fire. Everybody should be playing with their hair on fire.
No doubt.
Hey, rookie linebackers, you should be pissed off because you're the worst linebackers in the league, right? Even if they've been better, and fine. But when the graphics flashes up on Thanksgiving that went viral, where it's 82 out of 83 PFF, 83 out of 83, you can hate the rankings all you want, but it still sucks to be last.
You know what's funny is that there's 84 linebackers qualifying for those rankings. 82, 83, and 84 are all in this game. Guess who's 83? Matt Milano, who
I was going to say Matt Milano, which is wild
for the Bills. But the one guy between Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter is Matt Milano.
So Barrett Carter's 84?
Demetrius Knight is 84. Barrett Carter's 82.
Jeez, oh Pete. So that would make me sick. Like we talked about the Spotify rap, just how you know me, but for our listeners, like if it was like, oh, well, Locked On ranked you, like, and it was private and it was like Locked On Bengals is 84 out of 84 shows, which is not the case. But let's just say it was. I would be, even if it was just some random person ranking it, it would make me mad. Like, they should be mad. Geno Stone should be mad. Like, everything that he played with against the Patriots should still be there because people still feel that way. It's just not as loud because you didn't duck Darnell Washington this past week. And so that's the other element here when it comes to like stopping the run. Even if schematically they are in the right spot and they have a good plan and all of those things, at some point it is as simple as, all right, I'm not going to let this guy pass me. I'm going to hold up. I'm going to be in the right spot and I'm going to make sure I bring him down or hold on until someone else is there to tackle him. And so Dalton Kincaid, I think he's going to play this week. It's a huge test. Yeah. Like, he may have career high Dalton Kincaid, 14 catches for 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, you could see that.
Yep.
And that can't happen. You can't let James Cook do that. You can't let Dalton Kincaid do that. Khalil Shakir is an interesting one where if I'm the Bills, I want to see who's guarding him where and try to get him in space and see if you can get him involved. And so they have weapons. They aren't Jamar and T from a star standpoint, but it works for them. And so I think it starts with James Cook in this run game, including Josh Allen. Do not let that get going because if it does, it's going to be really tough on everybody.
I think it's just going to be really tough on everybody.
It is. It is.
I don't see. I mean, if the Bengals stop this run game, I'll be happy to sit here and say, holy, did this Bengals defense step up? But in terms of predicting it, like, man,
take 4 yards a carry, right? Like you can keep them there. Like we're not expecting 3, but it can't be 5.5. 5.5 would be tough.
I'd say if it's below 5, moral victory for the Bengals. We'll see what happens in terms of the scoreboard, but I expect this run game for Buffalo to work. Jackson Hawes, one of the best rookie tight ends in the NFL. I mean, this tight end room for Buffalo, Dawson Knox, Jackson Hawes, and the return of Dalton Kincaid for a position that the Bengals have struggled with hard this season because of their issues at linebacker and at safety. Like, that is not a matchup that I'm looking forward to. If I'm Buffalo, I'm just putting my 3 tight ends on the field with Khalil Shakir, whatever wide receiver I want for the situation, or maybe 3 tight ends and a fullback. Why not? The Bills have a fullback that plays between 10 and 20 snaps a game. Like, why not just go heavy the entire game and say, okay, Bengals, you have a couple corners you like? Well, good luck dealing with our 3 tight ends and our fullback. And our tight ends can run and catch too. Like,
what would you do?
If I'm on the Bengals, I mean, you got to match the personnel to some degree. So, I mean, you putting an extra safety on the field, probably just playing 3 linebackers and 2, you probably just matching at base. If I'm the Bills, I'm challenging you that way.
Yeah, well,
and
it keeps Joe sidelined. And like that would be my plan for sure, is to run. Oh, you're worried about the run? Well, there's Dalton Kincaid. There's Khalil Shakir. Oh my God, there's Dalton Kincaid throwing to Khalil Shakir. You know, you never know what's gonna.
The tight ends on over routes in this game, like play action tight end over, until they stop it. Like, it's gonna be there. The way that it was there last week, the Ravens forgot they could do it for a while. The Ravens went back to it. You know, like, that's the stuff that this Bengals defense hasn't stopped all year. Is get the linebackers to bite up on play action, send a crosser behind them. That's going to be there. And if you can run the ball too, and I think the Bills can, it's going to be tough. But that's why I'm looking at like those bend don't break moments, the red zone moments, the ability to create takeaways. That was huge last week, obviously. Like, that's why the Bengals win that game. They don't get those turnovers. That's probably a really close game. A touchdown erased on a turnover in one example. So plays like that, those plays matter a lot in a game that's going to have a very tight margin. And if the Bengals defense can't get a stop, then it comes down to which of these offenses can play mistake-free ball the longest. And that's one way that I look at this game as a potential shootout. We'll see what they do this week on defense. It feels to me like Al Golden's figuring some things out, James, but he's still a little bit stuck with the guys that he has out there.
And that's what's tough is finding the solutions with what you have. Miles Murphy and Joseph Osai continue pushing, make those splash plays, and play with that effort. And Who knows? Maybe this is the TJ Slayton game. Maybe it's the TJ Slayton game. They could use one. They could use a TJ Slayton game.
They could use a lot of guys game on that side of the ball, it feels like at this point. We'll have you covered right after the game here on Locked On Bengals. And whatever happens, we'll have the coverage for you. We'll be watching it closely as well. Huge game for the Bengals against the Buffalo Bills this weekend. Thanks for listening until then to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day, and have a good one.